So this is 7-2 in your workbook, and this section is about finding the common denominator. So you can work with some of these fractions by subtracting or adding them. And so there's 2 or 3 different steps that you can look at when you want to find the common denominator between 2 fractions, whether you're adding or subtracting them. So let me just put down 2 fractions here. That's a 2/5 and 1/6. So if I needed to find a common denominator, the very first thing I want to do is look and see if one is a multiple of the other. Now, I'm talking about the denominators. I'm talking about the bottom part of the fraction. So if I want to see if one is a multiple of the other, what I mean by that is I want to see if one will fit into the other. So if I was to write up another fraction here, let's say 1/2 and let's say 3/4, okay, and I was to look at the denominators, well, you can see that the 2 is going to go into the 4, and so the common denominator would be 4. It's easy. It makes sense. If I was to write another fraction, how about 2/9 and 7/18? Okay, again, we're looking at just the denominators because you got to find a number that they'll both go into. Well, 9 goes into itself and it goes into 18, just like 2 goes into itself and it goes into 4. So that's the very first thing you do, is you look to see if one is a multiple of the other. Let me do one more. How about if I had 3/5 and 12/25? Okay. We want to find a common multiple if we can. And the first thing you want to do is look to see if one will fit into the other. And again, you guys should all be able to see that 5, will go into itself, and 5 goes into 25 5 times. So 25 would be the common denominator. 18 would be the common denominator. 4 would be the common denominator. But they're not all that easy. Sometimes, if you look at them, one is not a multiple of the other. And that's the case, with this one right here. 5 doesn't go into 6. 6 doesn't go into 5 evenly. So then the next thing you want to do is you could just start multiplying them by 2 and 3 and 4 and look for a common multiple. So I could write down 2/5 here, and then I could multiply it by 2, and so then I'd have 4/10, and then if I multiplied it by 3, then I'd have 6/15, and then I could multiply it by 4, then I'd have 8/20, and I could kind of keep going. Okay, I could actually keep going forever. We talked about that yesterday. And then I could take 1/6 and I could multiply that by 2. So what do I get here? 2/12. Then I could multiply it by 3, and then I'd get 3/18. I could multiply it by 4, and then I'd get 4/24, and I could kind of keep going. Now, after I've done it 2 or 3 times, is there a match in any of these denominators? No, not really. There isn't. Now, I could keep going and eventually find one, and there's no telling how far you'd have to go on some of these numbers that you guys will start crunching, and what I mean by that is working on. So the third thing you could do, which is kind of a shortcut in some cases, is just simply multiply the 2 denominators together. Okay, so what I mean by that is if I had 2/5 which is the very first problem I wrote down here, and 1/6, okay? And we need to find a multiple that they will both go into. Well, I'm just going to multiply 5 times 6. 5 times 6, what's that equal? 30. There's my common denominator that both of those will fit into. 5 goes into 36 times, 6 goes into 35 times. And if I, let's say I wrote another fraction here. Let's see, how about 1/3 and 3/4, okay? So, well, obviously 3 doesn't fit into 4, 4 doesn't fit into 3, that's not gonna work. So I can just multiply the two together. What's 3 times 4? 12. So 3 times 4 equals 12. 12 is the common denominator. 3 goes into 12, and 4 fits into 12. Okay, so that's all that really this lesson is pretty much about, just finding a common denominator, which can be hard for some students. And for the students that don't know their multiplication tables really well, or don't know their division really well, it's a little bit harder. So you're having to write some more pen to paper. But I mean, you guys can figure it out. Okay, so that's really what this lesson is all about. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to check your homework, but while I'm doing that, I'll call you guys up and just bring up your homework. Since the homework was mostly estimating, and I've complained about that before, that it's kind of hard to grade estimating because there could be multiple correct answers. So here's what I want you guys to do is do these problems right here. Let me move these up a little bit closer so you can see it. I'm going to move this up right about there. Okay, so I kind of highlighted the 3 steps. So see if one denominator is the multiple of the other. And if that doesn't work, you could kind of look for a common multiple. You could multiply each one by 2, by 3, by 4. And if that doesn't work, you can just finally multiply the two denominators together. So there's your 3 steps in kind of solving these. And some of you can just look right at it and be able to go, oh yeah, I see what'll work. Others may have to work on it a little bit. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 problems here. I want you to find the common denominator for each one of those. And I will be checking your homework. So let me end this here.